Hello, America, and hello, nuclear aficionados around the world. Welcome to nuclear.com Daily. This is Christmas Day, December 25th, 2013. It's Wednesday here in North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I'm Steve Schulin of nuclear.com, and I hope you have a blessed day. Let's go to the news. Top story in the San Diego Union Tribune. Well, I guess it wasn't the top story, but it's my top story. NRC says San Onofre operator violated rules. They're talking about the steam generator replacement project planning. No penalties for Edison is the subhead. Financial recovery efforts could be complicated. Of course, Southern California Edison has been they've been coveting the ratepayers, paying the freight for this disastrous steam generator replacement project. The lemons that were put in. When I say lemons, I mean like lemon law kind of thing. Generators did not work. Did not work like they were made to minimum standards. Anyway, so the utility has been saying, "Oh, the ratepayers ought to pay," and of course, I've made my opinion known on that. On that score, I think they ought to hold the ratepayers should not be billed for this. It's the shareholders of the company who are responsible, and the board of directors of the company should be held accountable, and the management of the company should be held accountable. Anyway, so this NRC finding that there was that the utility made a mistake, I think that'll go a long way towards making sure that it's not the ratepayers who are on the stick for paying probably billions of dollars worth of losses total. I mean, two relatively new nuclear plants shut down just because they replaced them with steam generators that were not up to the task. All right. Next, a paper out of Farmington, New Mexico, the Daily Times. Their top story is about uranium mining. Navajo uranium projects a go. It's approved by Navajo Nation lawmakers despite a ban on uranium activities. And it's by the Daily Times reporter Nolan Smith. Dateline Farmington. Navajo lawmakers have granted a uranium mining company permission to operate a demonstration uranium recovery project despite tribal law banning uranium activities. The demonstration project would occur on land licensed by the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission to Uranium Resources, Inc., formerly known as Hydro Resources, Inc., in Church Rock, New Mexico, located east of Gallup. The Resources and Development Committee of the Navajo Nation voted 3 in favor and none opposed to acknowledge URI's, Uranium Resources, Inc.'s, right-of-way and surface and mineral access rights during a special meeting Monday in Arizona. In-situ recovery, IN space SITU space recovery, is an extraction method used to mine underground uranium by injecting solvents into uranium-rich rock layers and then pumping the dissolved uranium out. In 2005, the Navajo Nation Council approved the Dine Natural Resources Protection Act of 2005 to ban uranium mining and processing on any sites located on tribal lands. The ban was enacted after years of uranium mining impacted the health of the Navajo people, in addition to contaminating the land and water resources. Church Rock is also the site of the 1979 uranium mill spill. United Nuclear Corporation's uranium mill tailings disposal pond breached its dam, releasing more than 1,000 tons of solid radioactive mill waste and tailing solution into the Puerco River. So the Navajos are going to give in-situ a try. Next, here out of my home state of South Carolina, a story about U.S. Representative Jeff Duncan. This is out of the Greenville Times, and it's titled, Duncan Wants Oil and Gas Expansion. Lawmaker plans bill to up production. But that's not all. He's all of the above energy kind of guy. And other provisions that he's backing is some that would make it easier for utilities to build nuclear power plants, roll back regulations on greenhouse gases, slow the government's ability to designate protected wilderness areas, open Yucca Mountain for nuclear waste, and allow the construction of the full Keystone XL pipeline from Canada. That's Representative Jeff Duncan of South Carolina. Sounds like a plan. Out of Japan, Fukushima-related news still at the top of the front page. Here, almost 3 years later, Cabinet okays record budget for 2014. It includes the little sidebar there, TEPCO to get added support, state to shoulder 30-year interim waste storage. That's a Kyoto news story. In its fiscal 2014 budget plan revealed Tuesday, the government of Japan will provide additional support to Tokyo Electric Power Company in line with recently adopted guidelines to accelerate TEPCO's sluggish recovery from the Fukushima catastrophe that started in 2011. Projects to support TEPCO include the construction of interim storage facilities for waste generated by radiation cleanup activities outside of the damaged complex, for which the government plans to earmark 101.2 billion yen for fiscal 2014. The government has estimated that construction and management of interim waste storage facilities will total 1.1 trillion yen. TEPCO was originally to shoulder these costs, but the state, in the new guidelines, opted to fund the 30-year project. An Environment Ministry official said about half of the 101 billion yen allocated for the next fiscal year is to be used to buy land for the facilities, and the remaining half for their design and construction. The government is stepping up efforts to prepare the facilities, as their absence is seen as one of the reasons behind the delay in decontamination activities in Fukushima Prefecture. And the last front page news story today is from the New York Times, but it's actually on the front page of the Star Tribune out of, I guess that's Minneapolis, St. Paul. It's down below the fold, worry over new signs of North Korea nuclear activity. And the subhead, defying the United States, Pyongyang has vowed to expand its nuclear arsenal. Well, there's a lot of huffing and puffing that's been going on from North Korea for many, many years. One thing out of yesterday's Nuclear Regulatory Commission releases on the atom systems that I wanted to highlight that may be of interest to many of you. It's a small, they call it a one-pager. The description in atoms, it was like HBUF one-pager was all. That's all they described it as. Anyway, it's Atom's accession number ML133578248. There, you see, document title. That's how Adams put it. Document title. I'm doing this on YouTube, so I'm pointing out HBUF one pager was all it was. That's all you knew about it from the Adams Systems releases. Those are the types of things that I usually open at the beginning. Look at the document type. Each Adams document has a document type code. This document type was in the database as no document type applies. Anyway, it's a great one pager description of high burnup. It starts off by talking about what are nuclear fuel rods, and it describes. Well, here let me read it. Nuclear fuel rods are ceramic pellets of uranium oxide, UO sub 2, about the size of a finger joint. I'm showing that finger joint. They're on YouTube. About as big around as a Sharpie pen. I don't have my Sharpie handy. The space between the pellets and cladding is filled with helium. Spent fuel refers to fuel used in a commercial nuclear reactor that has been removed because it can no longer economically sustain a nuclear reaction. Burnup refers to the uranium consumed in the nuclear reaction. It is expressed in gigawatt days per metric ton of uranium. It gives the abbreviation GWD/MTU. A measure of how long a fuel rod is in the core and the power level it reaches. The phrase high burnup fuel is used to describe fuel that's in the reactor core for longer than low burnup fuel. In a reactor core, nuclear fuel undergoes physical and chemical changes. The UO2 fissions, splits apart and releases energy, producing fission gas and fission products. The pellets swell, crack, and release a small amount of fission gas inside the rod. The cladding also reacts with the reactor cooling water. This reaction forms an oxide layer on the outside, similar to rust, and produces hydrogen. About 15% of the hydrogen enters into the cladding metal. These processes occur slowly at first and then start to accelerate at about the time the fuel reaches burnup of 45 gigawatt days per metric ton of uranium. At this burnup level, the fuel is about 75% through its currently useful life. The maximum burnup that NRC has allowed increased as technology advanced our ability to understand the changes that the fuel undergoes in the reactor core. Our understanding of those changes is key to our ability to make safety decisions. Average fuel burnups have increased from around 35 gigawatt days per metric ton of uranium 2 decades ago to over 45 gigawatt days per metric ton of uranium today. Anything over 45 gigawatt days per metric ton of uranium is considered high burnup. Available information indicates that both low and high burnup spent fuel can be stored and transported safely. This information comes from operational experience with storage systems and short-term tests. Considerable data is available on the properties of low burnup spent fuel, and more confirmatory data is being obtained daily on high burnup fuel. That data is instrumental in enabling the NRC to make licensing decisions to allow spent fuel storage in specific dry cask designs. As utilities began discharging high burnup spent fuel, dry cask storage designers amended their designs to account for physical differences in the spent fuel. The NRC approved several spent fuel storage amendments based on research data sufficient to show that high burnup fuel could be stored safely. Additional high burnup storage amendments are under review. The NRC fully expects data from current testing will become available to confirm that high burnup spent fuel will behave as expected and remain in a safe condition even in a transportation accident. Subhead: what happens to high burnup spent fuel removed from the core? And it describes Like all spent fuel removed from a reactor, high burnup spent fuel is placed in a pool on site for cooling and storage. And then it talks about transferring them to dry casks. It talks about the temperatures, the high temperatures that can be reached during drying, and the high pressure in the fuel rods affect the hydrogen in the cladding of high burnup spent fuel. This effect on hydrogen, known as hydride reorientation, may cause the cladding to become more brittle when it cools. Understanding the impact of that process more fully is an important focus of ongoing research. This information is a key to NRC's ability to decide whether a proposed transport cask and its contents will perform safely in an accident. It talks about defense in depth. Subhead is high burnup fuel hotter than other spent fuel, and here's some statistics that I wasn't aware of. Very interesting. Higher burnup fuel comes out of the reactor hotter and more radioactive than lower burnup fuel. How much hotter and how more radioactive depends on the difference in burnup, the initial makeup of the fuel, and the environment inside the reactor. In general, compared with 35 GWD per MTU, 45 GWD per MTU fuel is 35% hotter and 33% more radioactive. So 45 gigawatt days per metric ton of uranium burnup is about a third hotter thermally and radioactively than 35 gigawatt days per metric ton of uranium. And then it also gives statistics. It compares that 35, that lower figure, to the 55 gigawatt days per MTU burnup. And the 55 burnup fuel is 78% hotter and 72% more radioactive than the 35 GWD burnup. The burnup is important to the review of dry spent fuel storage systems, because higher burnup fuel must be cooled longer than lower burnup fuel before it can be placed into dry storage. How much longer depends on the difference in burnup, the specific spent fuel storage system design, and how the fuel assemblies are arranged in the storage casks. And it goes on with such things as how much high burnup fuel is stored at nuclear reactors, what confirmatory testing is being done, and here it talks about cladding behavior, vibration fatigue, realistic temperature modeling, DOE demonstration of fuel behavior, and international and national interactions. Now, here in the last couple of days, I highlighted an advisory committee on reactor safeguards subcommittee transcript that was talking about the effect of high burnup fuel on post-LOCA conditions, post-accident conditions inside the core of a reactor. And over the past 10 years, there were findings that the scientific folks at NRC's Office of Research called unexpected findings, and that is that the higher burnup, the fuel was more likely to fragment and disperse after a loss of coolant accident. And the fine fuel fragments that were dispersible were described as being like sand. Very, very interesting stuff. And I suspect those findings had something to do with NRC's spent fuel cask
Hi, Steve.
division or department. Oh, hello. One moment.
Yes, sure.
I suspect that had some reason to do with the timing of this one-pager update on high burnup spent fuel. All right, welcome, and Merry Christmas.
Yeah, this is Josh from the Josh and Elliott Show.
Oh, hello, Jeff.
Josh.
Oh, Josh. Hi, Josh. I'm sorry.
How are you? Yeah, but from calling for the Josh. I'm from the Josh and Elliott Show.
Yes, I remember y'all well. Political
And I just
news.
wanted to ask you, did you ever win that election or not?
No, as a matter of fact, it was a spectacular failure.
Ah,
I, I came in fourth out of four candidates. I really,
oh my God.
I did not campaign the way I planned on campaigning. Um,
Uh-huh.
I got so excited at doing ancillary things during that campaign. Like the first thing I did was look for a domain name, Josh, and I found that
Uh-huh.
the best domain name for my city had not been registered, and that's www.nmb.sc, like North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Exactly. Okay, fine. I mean, you should try to do it again. Try to run again to see if,
Well, maybe I'll sure try to raise up a good candidate, if not me.
Exactly. Okay. Anyway, Elliot wants to know, we heard about the Bush ban on the light bulbs. It's taking place in a few days. So what's your take on that?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your question. What is it that you're asking
There's
about?
a Bush ban on light bulbs.
A ban on what?
George W. Bush, George W. Bush made a ban on light bulbs.
Oh, light bulbs, incandescent light bulbs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what do I think about that? I think it's a tragedy. I think it's another example.
No, light bulbs, like the electric lights.
Yeah, I got you. Incandescent light bulbs.
It's called the Energy Independence something Act, I think.
Yes, he signed it. Sure enough.
Ellie, you want to log in? Everybody's going to have to make sure you use fluorescent lights. That's what Elliot just told me. Elliot, do you want to log in? Log into this way you're on the microphone. 1 second. Elliot is also going to log in here.
All right. Yes, I think it's a travesty. Another example of government thinking that they're doing
another
good.
example of government intrusion, basically.
Yep, I feel the same way about it as I did when they made my air conditioner in my older car useless by banning the use of the coolant.
Anyway, we're now by bagels and cheese, and we also broadcast today less time than we figured that we would, but we were also broadcasting from bagels and cheese today.
That's great. I'm getting ready to. I'm cutting my show. I just finished my last nuclear headline for the day, and I was getting ready to go back home. And I don't think we have any bagels and cheese, but I'm sure there's something good going on.
Yeah, well, we broadcasted live, and we're still there. Actually, I will calling you straight from there. So.
Well, it's a pleasure and an honor, and hello to New York and your listeners around the world.
Yep. Elliot, you're in? 1 second. Elliot has a couple of questions for you as well. So.
All right. It's a pleasure to hear from you.
It's another example of government intrusion when they start telling me what kind of light bulbs you can use and this and that, and a few other things. So it's just another example.
Yes, it is. Now I've been told by some lighting professionals that the new compact fluorescent bulbs, their performance is much better than the ones that I've used. And the utilities used to give out boxes of 10 of them or so free to customers, and I never did end up using more than a few of them out of those boxes, just because the bulbs would get dimmer as time goes on and pretty quickly become unusable as far as getting sufficient amount of light from them. And they'd also take a while to warm up, so they were pretty unusable for many purposes.
Yeah, well, I'm very upset. I'm very sad to hear that you lost over there.
Oh, that's all right. Many good things have come from it. Like the local radio station here has asked me to do a series of 40 short found America's Principles segments, talking about
Okay.
like quotes from the founding fathers and how they relate to today.
Elliot, you want? Yeah, Elliot is on. Elliot, so you had a couple of questions for Steve? Yeah, I just wanted to really talk about Steve's the link to incandescent light bulb being staying down. It was actually signed by Bush, Mr. Conservative, but actually that takes place on January 1st.
Well, you suspected right, Elliot. I think it's another government overreach, and it's a shame that we drove the light bulb industry out of the United States. I don't think there's a single light bulb manufacturing plant left in the United States.
I think the interesting thing is I just was reading online that only 4 out of 10 people in the country are even aware of the fact that they're about to be phased out. Most people don't even know about it, which is pretty crazy, because actually it was signed into law so long ago, I think people forgot. Even then, people were not paying attention. It's probably been about 8 years since it was signed into law, and now it finally takes effect. I want my 60-watt bulb.
Well, the 100 watts are already off the shelves. I think people are making a fortune selling 100-watt bulb stocks on eBay.
But you could, how does it work? You could still sell the 100-watt bulb?
Well, you can't sell them as new on a store, but you can sell your used stuff still.
So what was the reason that they banned the 60 and the 40 and not the 100?
Oh, they started off by banning the 100s, and the next to go will be the 75s. I forget which year they phase out. And then the next, after that, it'll be the 60s. They'll be gone. And
yeah, after that, they'll ban all the light bulbs. You know what I mean? So they want us to go make back the candle light. There was an interesting thing, Steve, just telling Josh on the Blaze, which is Glenn Deck's site, about a guy who, I don't really understand the article, guys, and maybe you probably understand it better, you're more familiar, about a guy who found a way around, he's in this business, he sells light bulbs, he found a way around the law somehow. I don't fully understand it exactly, but I was looking at it this morning.
Well,
you can see it on theblaze.com.
Well, that's great news.
That's correct.
If it stands, I guess there's all kinds of technical things you can do to make changes, but I think the law just says if it's an incandescent bulb, it's not allowed to be sold, because most of the energy in the incandescent bulbs is let off as heat as opposed to light, and so they're considered inefficient. Of course, the fact that they turn on quickly and they do produce a lot of light is important. I've never seen a comparison of the high intensity bulbs, like the halogen bulbs, how much energy they use. I don't know if they're more efficient or not, but they're still being sold at high wattage.
Anyway, Steve, I just wanted to ask you a question. Should we put your player from your show on our site as well?
Oh, bless your heart. Yes, you may. And I'm also, you guys might be interested in another thing that I'm doing. I've been recording this show here since 2011, sitting in front of my computer every day reading the news, and I thought that it would be a good idea to try a YouTube version of it. So I've got the video recorder going on at the same time as I'm taping the show, and then after the show's over, I process the video and post it on YouTube.
Yeah, I just want to know if you should use your talk to the player for the website as well. On the blog, and so let people know that you have that program.
Well, YouTube gets an awful lot more users on it than TalkShoe does. And if you put a description about what you've talked about on your show each day in your YouTube description, people who are searching the YouTube videos will find it.
Can you send us a link to your channel?
Yes, I'll be happy to do that. All right, thanks, Josh. Thanks, Elliot. I'm going to call it a day.
All right, I'll see you.
All right.
Take care.
Bye now.
Take care. All the best.
Thank you. Well, that's Josh and Elliot from the Josh and Elliot Show, a show-to-show call here on TalkShoe. It's a pleasure to hear from them. And, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for the nuclear news today. Thanks for joining in. Like I say, I hope you have a very Merry Christmas. And I'm about to go home to see my sweetheart. My oldest son has came down a couple days ago from Maryland. And he's spending Christmas Day here with us. My youngest son, who's been down here longer than I have in South Carolina, is in between semesters at school. And it was a joy to have the house filled with family this week. So, Merry Christmas, everybody. Hope you have a great day and a great rest of the week. And those of you in the nuclear biz, make it another safe one, my friends. This is Steve Schulin signing off for Nuclear.com Daily.